Record, thank you. Good morning, everyone. I'm Nicola Barber, Chair of the CIPD Northern Ireland branch, and you're very welcome today to our Running a Successful Apprenticeship programme. So we've got a fantastic lineup of speakers for you today. We've got Michael Harris from the Department for Economy, Geraldine Hume from Northern Ireland Water, and Emma Dunn from NI Water as well.
That's good for me.
We're going to have all of our guest speakers, and then this is going to be followed by a Q&A session. So can I ask everyone just to put yourselves on mute, please? Thank you. So we aim to have the event finished at 11:45. So this event has been organised by the branch volunteer team, and thank you to George Alexander and Alison Sweeney who have led in this event. And we also have Sheena Walsh in the background helping us with the technology. So we're going to be making a start now on our presentations, and I'm going to pass over to Michael Harris from the Department for Economy. Thank you.
Morning, everyone. And thank you, Nicola and George, for inviting me along today just to talk about apprenticeships. I'll set the apprenticeship scene here this morning in terms of what we're doing in the department, and then you'll get the opportunity, as you'll see from the agenda, then to actually hear from an apprentice and an employer as to how that has worked out for them. So I'm Michael Harris. I head up our apprenticeships development and marketing team within the Department of Economy, and we sit within a wider division which also is responsible for our career service and some of our other vocational education programs. I'll just want to say a wee bit this morning about apprenticeships, what we think the benefits of them are, a bit on our programs. I want to just make a pitch for our sectoral partnerships that we have, and also where you can find out a bit more about apprenticeships later on. If we have the next slide then, George. Yeah. So 2 documents that the department has published over the last year, 18 months that you may or may not be familiar with are our 10x economic vision and also our skills strategy for Northern Ireland, and both of those documents do put apprenticeships in key roles. So you can see the economic vision. Certainly one of the visions within that is about delivering positive outcomes for our people, and that's a busy slide. I appreciate that, but within there you'll see a lot of the objectives that 10x has, and from an apprenticeships point of view, some of those that are really important are about creating better opportunities for our young people, about getting more people into the labour market, having better job opportunities, and also those opportunities for people to reskill and upskill, which are all going to be very important for our economy going forward. We also then produced our skills strategy, and you'll see there are a number of objectives and enablers, and certainly from an apprenticeships point of view, one of the key objectives there is creating that culture of lifelong learning, and apprenticeships have that role in the progression pathway for people starting on their careers and being able to learn and gain a qualification as they proceed through their career. Go to the next slide then, George, please. So you'll hear better later on from, say, an apprentice and an employer and what the benefits of an apprenticeship are, but I just wanted to lay out here some of those or set them out what the key and the obvious ones are. So for the apprentice, you get to earn as you learn, or learn as you earn, whatever way you want to look at it. So you're already employed, and you're gaining a salary as you're gaining a qualification, and that qualification is a recognised qualification from level 2 up until level 6 we have in our apprenticeships. You get that opportunity to work alongside experienced staff, and what we're seeing increasingly by employers is the appointment of mentors specifically to help and guide those apprentices throughout their apprenticeship journey, and those apprentices then are receiving that off-the-job training that's very specific to the apprenticeship that they're doing. So it's all very, very relevant. To you as an employer, you're getting that access to fresh talent. You're getting access to people who want to be there, who have decided that this is the career path they want to follow. We as a department will fund the off-the-job training element of their apprenticeship for the duration of the apprenticeship that they're there. You get an apprentice who has those skills and qualifications that you need now and in the future. And I'll mention a bit more. This is where sectoral partnerships come in later on to help to make sure that we have got the apprenticeships in place that you need. And you're getting that loyal and motivated workforce for you. And certainly what we are aware of is that apprentices are loyal and they stay with companies. And I've been to a number of companies where the senior management are started off as apprentices in that company. In one company in particular, a joinery shop fitting company, the MD started off as a joiner, and he's now the MD of a very, very successful global company. Get the next slide then, please, George. Just setting out here where our programs sit in terms of employed pathways and non-employed pathways and the progression routes that there are for people. So you'll see, and we're talking today about our apprenticeships, which operate from level 2 right up to level 7, and we want to see people being able to progress from that level 2 right through to our higher level apprenticeships. And the non-employed pathway route offers those opportunities for people then to go into apprenticeships at different stages of that approach. So if we even take the traineeships as an example, that's almost the flip of an apprenticeship, where an apprenticeship is 4 days typically at work, 1 day off the job training. A traineeship, you'll be 4 days in college and maybe 1 day out at a company, and you're gaining that experience that would allow you hopefully to transfer on to an apprenticeship, be it at level 2 or level 3, and you can see that also with our advanced technicals and the opportunities then for higher education to move into HLS. Okay, George. Okay. So we have 2 programs. Our first and our biggest program then is our Apprenticeships NI program, and that's offering apprenticeships at level 2 and level 3. We have almost 10,000 participants on Apprenticeships NI. We're back up above where we were prior to COVID. Typically, we would get maybe about 5,000 come on each year to Apprenticeships NI. So at any one time, you'll probably have around 10,000. Those figures are from July of last year. We're still waiting to get updated figures. We've made changes to our management information systems, and that has, as with all IT systems, delayed getting the information we need. But the expectation is that those figures will remain at least where they have been. Those apprentices are following one of over 130 apprenticeship frameworks. Folks, maybe you could put yourselves on mute if you're not already. Be great, thanks. I've listed some of the apprenticeship frameworks there. There's quite a lot to choose from. Some more obvious than others. I mean, that's just I say a small number, but I'm not sure of the industries you represent here today or who's here, but I would say there's an apprenticeship for all sectors. Would be under our Apprenticeships NI program. Okay, George, next slide, please. So apprenticeship, I've already mentioned Apprenticeships NI is for levels 2 and 3 apprenticeships. The off-the-job training, which we fund, says department, that is provided by either one of the 6 further education colleges, one of over 20 private training providers, or the College for Agriculture, Food and Rural Enterprise. Typically, those apprenticeships, some of them will be offered by the colleges and the training providers, and so they're very much spread right across Northern Ireland and offer wide range opportunities for employers and apprentices, so there should be no trouble finding a training provider. In terms of the incentive for the employer, there is a relatively small employer incentive you'll see there payable at the completion of the framework for the employer, and that amount will range, I say there, from £558 to over £1,600, and that will depend on the age of the apprentice and the apprenticeship route that they've followed. I've set out on the right just some of the key requirements. So the apprentice must be contracted to work 21 hours per week. Of course, an apprentice is first and foremost an employee. That 21 hours per week can include the off-the-job training element. They can be somebody new coming into your business or an existing employee who's moving to a new area of work. Typically, the apprentice will last 2 years, but some of them, for example, electrotechnical, they can take up to 4 years to complete. And at the end of that, the apprentice will have gained both a competence and a knowledge-based qualification. Next slide, George. We also have our higher level apprenticeships program, which started, I think, around 2017. And that's offering apprenticeships from level 4 up to level 7. You'll see we have over 1,500 participants on the program, growing all the time. HLAs are becoming increasingly popular. And it's quite obvious why that would be. I mean, for an apprentice, they're getting a qualification from level 4 up without any student fees. I mean, they really are earning while they learn, and many companies are recognizing the value of employing HLAs. On the right there, I've just set out the sectors, and in terms of, and that tries to illustrate where the numbers really are, which are the bigger areas for HLA. Growing, I say, all the time. We've probably got about over 20 to 30 areas where HLAs are being developed constantly, and some more obvious areas than others. Colleges and universities will work very closely then with employers in developing those HLAs so that they're specific to their needs. Can I have the next slide then, George? I was asked to briefly say something about the apprenticeship levy, because that falls within my remit as well. And for some of you may be familiar with it. I suspect you probably are all familiar with it if you're paying the levy. And it does come up quite often. So, I mean, the levy is a Westminster imposed tax, essentially, came in 2017. So while the levy itself is reserved matter, how skills are delivered in each of the devolved nations then is up to, say, to each of those nations how they do it, but we have no control whatsoever over the levy. It applies to all employers, private sector and public sector, who have that annual payroll over 3 million and paying 0.5%. Quite difficult for us, and has been difficult for us, to try and get a sense of how much employers here or Northern Ireland is paying in to the levy. And equally, it's not even clear how much we get back out of it, to be perfectly honest. That seems to be a difficult figure to get to the bottom of. But we do get a Barnett consequential back to us from the levy. It's not ring fenced, so it becomes part of the wider Northern Ireland funding, and we as a department have to bid, as other departments have to do, for funding on an annual basis. I do hear employers saying we're paying the levy and getting nothing out of it. What we would say to that is, you can access our programs. So yes, you're paying the levy, but you do get to access our apprenticeship programs. We will pay, just as the levy does in England, for the off-the-job training element of that apprenticeship. So if you think you're not getting anything back, please be assured that you are, and we do have, say, our programs in place. We've our budget in place, and we've never had to refuse an apprenticeship which was valid and eligible for our schemes. The only area, say, where it's not, and maybe there's some public sector bodies here, is we don't fund public sector apprenticeships. I'll touch on that later. They are paying the levy. One final point, the Fiscal Commission for Northern Ireland, when they were looking at tax raising powers for here, did refer to the levy in their report, and did recommend that if tax raising powers ever did come to Northern Ireland, then the apprenticeship levy should also be devolved. But I think that's going to be some years away before that actually does happen. Next slide, George, please. I mentioned earlier just our sectoral partnerships, which have responsibility for as well. So they were set up again around 2016, 2017 with the objective of really putting employers in the front seat of developing our apprenticeship frameworks and making sure that our apprenticeships meet the needs of industry now and in the future. At the minute, we have 15 in place, and I've listed them all there. We have another 3 to be set up. They're facilitated by mainly the colleges. CAFRE also help, and Construction Industry Training Board would facilitate another one. They act as secretariats. Our sectoral partnerships will bring together employers. They'll bring together CIA to look after the qualification side. The department is represented as well. Other employer representative bodies too will be on those. And I say they are looking at the apprenticeship frameworks, making sure that they're appropriate and relevant, that there are proper progression pathways through from level 2 right up to HLA. So they will have an input to the HLAs, and they will have an input to our traineeships as well, because it's important that our traineeships mirror much of the content of our apprenticeships to allow that progression from one to the other. We're always looking for new members for sectoral partnerships. It's not onerous. Most sectoral partnerships may only hold 4 or 5 meetings a year. They're now mainly online. The colleges and the other secretariats are very good at managing those. So if this is something you would be interested in getting involved in, then please do let me know, and we can provide you with further details on that. Next slide, George, please. All age apprenticeships, and it's really up until now, I don't know how many of these presentations I've done over the last couple of years, but all age apprenticeships has been one that we've said this is something we would like to do. It's been an objective of the department for quite a long time to do, and up to now it's been a case of we'd love to do, but we can't do it. We don't have the budget for it. It is really good that this is the first presentation I've been able to say that all age apprenticeships are happening. In fact, they're now in place, and they remove what was the previous age eligibility requirement under the Apprenticeships NI program. HLAs have no age restrictions, but under the APPS NI program, we funded 100% of the off-the-job training if you were aged 16 to 24, and only in certain economic priority frameworks did we fund those 50%, and that was a relatively small number. So quite a lot of our apprenticeships, there was no funding for those aged 25 and above, which doesn't seem fair. If you're that age and still have 30, 40 years of work ahead of you, why can you not undertake an apprenticeship? So we have been able to do it. There's been quite a lot of work going on behind the scenes to try and secure budget within the department to progress these. So from the 1st of September, our training providers will be able to take on apprentices who are aged 25 and above. And it's really important for us because we think it will help you address skills gaps. There are certain sectors that this will be particularly attractive to. For example, social care, health and social care sector really do see that older apprentices is the way forward for them. So people with life experience who want to come back into that sector. We also think it'll help address the gender gap. Only about 26% of our apprentices under the Apprenticeships NI program are female. And we think that is something we really do need to work on. Well, everybody needs to work on, not just apprenticeships. It's happened right across all employers, but we think all age will help that. it does help our skills strategy objective of creating that culture of lifelong learning. So people can maybe at that age, 25 and over, look to change careers and to reskill into something else. And I say they're technically now available. Our training providers, the systems are now allowing, and we'll do a formal press release by the end of this week on that to just confirm that they are now in operation. Next slide then, George, please. Public sector apprenticeships. This is the one I don't have the good news on, really. We don't fund public sector apprenticeships under our programs, and that's been a long-standing policy, but it's been also one that we've wanted to change. And it really does come down to budget, to be perfectly honest. I mean, the potential for public sector apprenticeships is quite large. It would need significant additional funding to do that. Having said that, there are already quite a number of PSAs already operating, and you'll hear from NI Water on their successful program that they have. TransLink, the Northern Ireland Civil Service, and some of our local authorities also have apprenticeship programs up and running and in place. But we need to look at how we can help. If we're not able at this time to fund those, then how can we help? And we're how we can do that through brokering between ourselves and other employers so that they can provide that linkage with those other bodies who are exploring it. How have successful companies or organizations done it so far? About linking them up with our training providers so that they might be aware that they can still do this, although we just don't fund it. And we look at how we can promote and market them as well. So I don't know, maybe the next time I come back and talk to you, we'll have something more positive we can say on public sector apprenticeships. But it's certainly, now that we have all the age in place, it is definitely the next priority for us to see what we can do on that. Next slide, George, please. And this is probably my last slide. Just if you want more information, some areas where you can find that out. On NI Direct is our main citizen-facing page for apprenticeships, and you'll find everything on that you'll need to know on the different types of apprenticeships. You can also find out who are the training providers for each apprenticeship as well. NI Business Info is a relevant one for you as employers, because that also says more about the funding requirements or opportunities there. If you do have any apprenticeship opportunities, to list. Our main place for listing those is on Connect to Success on NI Direct, and I have to say it has not been a great success because the number of opportunities we get listed are quite low. It's on a platform that we're probably going to have to change and move more to the main Job Apply NI platform run by Department for Communities, and they have already started to highlight apprenticeship opportunities on that. We know there are a lot of apprenticeship opportunities listed every month, and a lot of those seem to go on maybe the recruitment agency pages, and maybe not a lot in Job Apply or Connect Success, but we would encourage you to use those, particularly Job Apply. And I mean, we'll start to wind down Connect Success, but if you do have any apprentice opportunities, please do have them listed there for us. And unfortunately, I did have a video, but we're not going to show it because it keeps buffering, so apologies. On the Department of Economy website, if you search for Apprenticeship Awards 2023, you'll find a list of videos or from all our finalists from earlier this year. They're very inspiring videos. You'll hear from employers, you'll hear from apprentices, and you'll hear from mentors. And if you do have time, please have a look at those. So look, that's me. That's a very quick run through of mine. I think there'll be an opportunity later for Q&A. I'm just going to now hand you over to Geraldine from Northern Ireland Water.
Hi everybody, and thank you for coming on today and listening to our story of Northern Ireland Water for our very successful apprenticeships. I'm going to share it all with you. I'm going to share what has been successful, what has been a challenge, what still remains to be a challenge. There's no such thing if you're award winning that everything's perfect. So, you know, I want people to learn from our experience. Next slide, please. Yeah. Okay, so as I say, I'm going to share the warts and all. The agenda for today is I'll introduce myself, and I have one of our higher level apprentices here today. So you'll hear it from her exactly what it is really like. You know, I could tell you one thing and she could tell you the complete opposite. So it's good to hear both perspectives. I'll give a bit of a background to Northern Ireland Water, and I'll talk you through the need for our change. Why did we go down this journey of introducing an apprenticeship academy, and why did we need it? I'll talk about the approach that we took and the results that we achieved, and what worked well for us and what is still difficult and what is still a challenge today. Okay, next slide, please. So I'm Geraldine Hume, and I am the entry-level academy manager. My background is I've been in Northern Ireland Water for 14 years and have carried out a variety of roles. My first 10 years were in business improvement, where I worked as a project manager implementing all types of projects to do with HR. So my background isn't in HR, but I started off really as a project manager in HR, doing things like, I suppose, I implemented and designed and implemented workforce planning for Northern Ireland Water. I moved our frontline staff from weekly to monthly pay. And I did a big review of our laboratories, which had a number of serious failures, to help build their resource resilience. So after 10 years in Northern Ireland Water, my natural progression, I suppose, was into the HR department. And it was that point that I took my CIPD and so on. So I moved over to the HR department really towards the end of the pandemic. And my first role there was to implement hybrid working. And that's been very successful. We are all hybrid workers now, apart from our frontline staff and our scientists. And we worked a 50-50 model, half in the office and half at home. So on to the role that I'm doing at the minute, which is looking after our apprenticeship academy. We're calling it our entry-level academy now, because when we started on this journey, and I wasn't the person to start with it was around 2018, we were really looking at just apprentices for frontline roles, because that's where our burning platform was. We had a very, very aging profile in the frontline roles. Up to 50% of our frontline staff were coming up to the age of 60. So it was a real cliff edge situation, and we needed to bring apprentices in. But since then, and since we've evolved and developed, we are now looking at, we now are bringing in graduates and higher level apprentices. So I'll let you hear from Emma, because she is one of our higher level apprentices, and if she just introduces herself before she does her full talk.
Yeah, so hi, I'm Emma Dunn, and I'm going into my second year as a higher level apprentice in cybersecurity. So I'll talk more about like my apprenticeship story later on. But just a little bit of background about me is that I just came from A levels. So I sat and did my GCSEs in school, and then I moved on to the Belfast Met and I did a extended diploma in IT. I'd prefer to do that than go into A levels and study it in school. And then after that, I moved on into my apprenticeship here, but I'll discuss more about that later. So yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Okay, thank you, Emma. We'll hear from Emma in a wee minute. So if we go to the next slide, if you click again. Thank you very much. So this looks like a very busy slide, but it's really about Northern Ireland Water. I'm sure everybody on this call has heard of Northern Ireland Water. But just to give you a wee bit of a background, you know, of what we do, and I suppose the workforce that we require to provide all the things on this slide. We are the only provider of water and wastewater services in Northern Ireland. So I mean, that's very key. We have nowhere to go to pick up staff if we need them. We have to grow our own for many of our roles. So that's key to needing an entry-level academy. On my left here, the paler blue figures, that's all our water treatment side of things. On the other side on the right is our wastewater side of things. But just to give you some interesting facts, it costs about £680 million each year to deliver water services in Northern Ireland. Thousands of assets at a value of around 3 billion are operated and maintained to provide these services. And in terms of water, these include, we have 24 impounding reservoirs. That's where we collect our water from the environment. We go to the treatment side of it, and with 23, we clean our water at our treatment works, and with 23 major treatment works. We store our water before it gets pumped to houses in 366 service reservoirs. And we use pumping stations to get that water from the reservoirs into your homes, where we're providing 893 households and businesses with clean water. So that takes an army of people. And on the waste side of our business, we remove waste from 727 households and businesses. And we have 1,300 pumping stations to take that waste away, and we treat 1,030 wastewater treatment works, and we have sludge to remove that as well. So it's to give you a feel for, you know, that's our frontline operation. That's what we do. That's what we go to work to do every day. And how do we do it? So our purpose in Northern Ireland Water is to deliver what matters, because every aspect of life depends on the provision of clean water and the removal of wastewater services. It takes a very skilled workforce to be able to deliver what I've shown you on this slide. Currently, we have 1,400 staff in and around who are working. Many of them are working 24/7, 365 days of the year. In 2019, we significantly started to invest in our emerging talent and thinking about the needs for the future of the business. Even way back in my days in business improvement, I wrote a paper for our board on our age profile, and that was in 2013. And we started to go, oh my gosh, if we do nothing, if we continue as we are going, half our workforce, our frontline workforce, will be gone by 2018. There will be 60 and over. Of course, we never know exactly when people are going to retire, but we could not sit on our hands any longer. But it takes time to develop and think about these things. So I think it's actually quite nice that I seen it in the very beginning, although I wasn't part of setting up the academy. But I've now seen the outputs of that analysis that was done in 2013. So we really took off in earnest in 2019 with a wide-scale outreach strategy aimed at influencing early career and study choices and addressing shortages in STEM. A lot of our roles depend on STEM subjects. We have 2 laboratories. We need scientists. They're really difficult to get. During the pandemic, when I was looking after the labs, they are really difficult to get. And we're competing with the private sector who can offer bigger salaries and so on. So very difficult for us. And we have very unique roles as well. They're specific only to us. For example, telemetry. Now I know BT use that as well, but some of the frontline roles are very difficult as well. So we had a number of things coming together that we needed to address. So over the last 4 years, since 2019, our academy has gone from strength to strength. We have been growing and diversifying into new business areas to support Northern Ireland Water's strategic objectives and ambitions. And at the minute, we currently have 108 people employed in the academy, with greater numbers coming in 2024. So if you could go to the next slide, please. So the need for change, I've hinted on it. We started thinking about it in 2013 and doing something really about it around 2017, with the first people coming on board in 2018. There was that need to grow our own talent. We couldn't recruit them. We couldn't recruit them, put out jobs and get people to come in with these STEM subjects and for these very difficult, hard to fill roles. And that ageing workforce was not going away. So it was a real burning platform for succession planning. And it wouldn't be enough to just do a one-off thing. We would need to do it year on year, because there was more people going to retire year on year. So we needed that steady pipeline of top entry talent coming into our business. As I said, half of our frontline staff were over 60, but in the total, a third of our workforce are over 55. So a large proportion of retirees are, potential retirees are happening and will happen over the next 10 years. And as I said, real shortage for roles in STEM subjects. Engineering, really difficult to recruit for, and science, even more difficult to recruit for. They're by far the most difficult roles. And then those more niche roles that are specific only to us with telemetry and some of the frontline roles. So we needed it, is the bottom line. That's why we embarked on it. And then it provided also a good opportunity to support our diversity and inclusion ambitions. Predominantly Northern Ireland Water in the frontline side of our business, which is about half of our business, about 500 out of the 1,400 roles are frontline, and there's very few females employed, and there's no reason for it not to be. It's not sexy. What my 16-year-old daughter said to me yesterday, Mummy, why would we want to work in Northern Ireland Water when you deal with poo? And I saying to her, because they're very good jobs. We're not dealing with pool, it's all automated. But the perception out there is that for a lot of young people, oh, I don't want to work in somewhere like that. I want to work somewhere more attractive. So we have a real challenge to go, actually, these are very good jobs with great career progression, with great salaries, and they are open to both male and female. So that is one of our biggest challenges, getting females into the frontline part of the business. And also, I've talked about our aging profile. We're imbalanced, or we were imbalanced. We had a lot of older employees and less younger people coming through. So that academy is bringing people in, albeit, like was discussed earlier, our apprenticeships, higher level apprenticeships and graduates are open to all age bands. But we are attracting from all age bands, but it's also starting to bring in some of the younger generation. And it's been a great opportunity. And I think this is one of the things we're most proud of, is to drive social equality within our community. I'll talk more about that in other slides, but we're very, very aware that everybody's not the same and everybody is not given the same opportunities in life. And I think it's up to 70 apprenticeships out there are asking for Maths and English GCSE. And that is creating a barrier. You know, one day sitting in this house, we had a guys out from Northern Ireland Water, and there was a young guy and he was digging in with cameras and so on. And it really made me think, do you really need Shakespeare to dig a hole and put a camera down? So that's one of the big things that we've changed this year, but I'm going to talk to you about that further on. So all of these things are providing an opportunity to positively affect our workplace culture. Even though when we talked about it in 2013 and we knew about this cliff edge of people possibly leaving and retiring, I don't think we were talking about their diversity and inclusion, and I don't think we were talking about social mobility. But together, they've all come together and it's all aligned, and we're impacting different parts of the business that we probably didn't set out to do in the first place, and that's what makes it very rewarding. Okay, if you could go to the next slide. So in terms of our academy model, we aim to drive excellence and provide an unravelled apprentice experience. And when I say that, I mean for our apprentices, graduates, and our higher level apprentices. It takes a lot of investment. I am not going to tell you here any different, that this is easy and that you don't need resources or whatever. You need a dedicated team. There are a lot of young people that have needs, and you need to really focus on this. And that support has to come from the top down. Currently with 108 apprentices, in our academy, we will have myself, a level 4 manager, and then we have 2 coordinators. Last year we had 75 and we had 1 manager and 1 coordinator. So probably when you're going up on, for every 30 that you're going up, you would need to bring on another coordinator, is what we're really saying. And that's with a bit of benchmarking with NIE. We believe we're, aligned. The support has to come from the top. We, like every other person on this call, we all have challenges in terms of our budgets, and Northern Ireland Water are not flush and we have our own set of challenges. But we can't afford not to take in these people. So when I brought our requirements for 2023 to the chief executive, you're kind of shaking going into here and going, we're asking for, this is for last year, we're asking for 33 new jobs to be signed off here. That's kind of unheard of. We don't sign off jobs willy-nilly. And she went away, she thought about it, and after the meeting she said, we can't afford not to do it. We need these people coming into our business. So, calculations were done things were moved around, and we brought in we're bringing in 33 in September. Our challenges will be even more difficult next year, so I'm sure a lot of you can relate to that, but you know, it's that weighing up with the cost versus the benefit. In terms of doing this, the team of myself and the two coordinators cannot do this on their own. They absolutely can't. You have to partner with the business. It's a huge cross-functional team effort. We start in a yearly cycle. We start in August. We go out to the business and we ask them what are their requirements. They come back and they give a list of requirements. And sometimes some of them think that's it, that's the job going through, we'll get an apprentice. It's the start of maybe a 4-month-long process. They need to go back, you need to go back to them. What is your business case? What is your justification? That takes probably 4 months before we would land in front of our chief executive. So when we get to her, we're saying, this is the case, this is the justification, and there's no, you know, she's clear. She can make a decision there and then, and she passed all 33 roles last year, but that was 4 months due diligence in preparation of seeing her in partnership with that business. So the business areas can get a wee bit ahead of themselves and go, well, oh, that's a good way to get somebody into the business. We'll recruit that way. It's not easy, and there's a lot of work. And we also need them to partner, not just in developing business cases, but they need to be a part of that process from the start. They need to be a part of the marketing strategy. You know, the scientists have to help us. What does that imagery need to look like? Frontline roles, what does that imagery need to look like? Who do we need to be talking to? Where do you have difficulties? So they need to be involved in that. We get them involved in our apprenticeship week. We get them involved in our parents' evening. You know, when a lot of this is a buy-in both ways from the young people and their parents. And we do parents' evening. We get a lot of questions. They want to see who are our senior people in the business. What are they saying? What are the scientists saying? What are the engineers saying? What does those opportunities really look like to get buy-in? So a very much a partnership approach. We also got them involved in our interviews, which we called assessment centres. That was over the Easter holidays, working weekends, evenings, and during the week. We got them involved in the interview. We got them involved in developing the training plans. How are they going to be trained internally? So that's outside of the college side of stuff. How are they going to be assessed? How are they going to be reviewed? So it's not down to the 3 people, myself and the 2 coordinators. It's very much that partnership approach. And I talked about targeted recruitment. This is really, really important. Where are the pinch points? Where are the difficulties? How do we target? How do we use the right imagery? How do we use the right type of social media to get to our target audience? We learned from the year before, we did ordinary interviews, like every other type of interview, a competency-based interview in Northern Ireland Water, and it didn't work for our apprentices. We recruited people with the wrong values and behaviours. They didn't get it when they're maybe 19, 20 years of age, that they come in and they get a role in the front line, that they'll have to go down and dig manholes at 4 o'clock in the morning in January when it's -2 degrees. You know, so people came on board and it wasn't the right role for them. So with the help of Alison here on the call from our values and behaviour side of things, we got our whole business to change how we recruit. We did a 5-minute pitch of assessment centres that come in. Why would you want to work for Northern Ireland Water? What do you see as the challenges? What do you see as a job? Rather than a competency-based interview, and we find that that has worked really, really well. And it meant that we interviewed over 100 people in a week. We have a boot camp for, they all start in September in line with the colleges and the universities, and they come to us up in our Antrim Training Centre for 6 weeks, which is immersed in all things Northern Ireland Water, professional development, health and safety, meeting business leaders, all the things that you need to know to start a good induction. How do you get your pay, you know, mileage, all those types of things, and they're all brought together. So that's their opportunity to network, make friends. You remember, these people have chosen our courses over going to university, where they would have been in big groups of people all the same age. So we want to replicate that friendship, the class of 2023, the class of 2024, even though they'll go out and work in other parts of the business, but they will always know they're my colleagues, they're my friends, they're my go-to, and that's helped with the whole retention side of things. All of them have clear performance factors. It's a very high bar. We bring on about 30 odd a year, and we tend to lose maybe 1. But you know, it isn't easy. The expectations are set during boot camp and they know what's expected of them. They all have structured training plans that are developed with the business. What does that plan look like? How will you be assessed and reviewed? How will you make it through probation? They're very clear from the offset. They have their structured career path through their university and their colleges, and we get updates, reports from the colleges and universities to hear how they're getting on, and we review them at 3, 6 and 9 months. We have a rotational training model in most of the graduates, apprentice and HLA programs so that they're doing something different throughout their whole period. Most of them are 2 years, some of them are 3 years, and they get to see all aspects of the business. And they're very heavily supported with buddies, mentors, line managers, and the entry level team. And there's reverse mentoring for them as well. So that's our model. If we could just go to the next slide, please. And I'll pass over to Emma, who's currently swinging from, I don't know what that is, Emma. You can explain your photograph.
Yeah, that photo is just during working from heights training that I did last year. So, but hello everyone, my name is Emma and I'm a higher level apprentice in cybersecurity within Northern Ireland Water. I've been working with them since September 2022, so I'm coming up to my first year. At the start of my apprenticeship, I had to undertake a 12-week boot camp at the time in order to understand the business needs and learn the ins and outs of NI Water. So I did lots of safety training, met people within the business, such as my line manager, the CEO, my apprentice coordinators, and other apprentices I would be working alongside with. All in all, these 12 weeks were very welcoming and informative. This boot camp made me feel at ease, and after the 12 weeks, I felt I was ready to go into my role and work to the best of my ability to help keep NI Water running safely. When I got the job, I was very nervous about going into a male-dominated workplace as a female, but on the first day, I felt very comfortable with the help of everyone, including the trainers and the other apprentices. This meant that I made lots of friends on the first day and still to this day keep in touch with some of them. I find it fascinating finding out what other apprentices are getting up to within their roles, as I feel it can help me understand a wide aspect of the business. Sorry. And then, so my day-to-day roles as an apprentice, as a cybersecurity apprentice within the network team, is to shadow a level 5 network security engineer to learn how to approach and implement issues. A few other tasks that I carry out are to monitor and act on any malicious attacks on the network, respond to tickets, improve the setup of the firewalls, and investigate any problems that may arise within the business in relation to the network. And then a fellow cybersecurity apprentice and I are currently taking lead in a project alongside XRSense. This could revolutionize the water industry, and it feels so nice to take lead at such a young age in such a massive project that one day could like just take over Northern Ireland Water in a good way. And this can change the way that frontline workers within Northern Ireland Water carry out their daily routine. So now on to the main question that people ask me, which is, why did you choose to go in an apprenticeship rather than go down university and study a degree? Well, firstly, I was introduced to the apprenticeship route in my first year of A-levels, and I decided that from that day when I found out that the apprenticeship route was right for me, I chose this route because I get to go to work 4 days a week and then go to college 1 day a week to study in Belfast Met and learn a foundation degree in cybersecurity. So the best thing is that I can bring knowledge from school and integrate it into my work tasks and vice versa. So I feel like I'm building my knowledge more and more every day within the subject. The only downside I would say to the apprenticeship is that I may not get to experience the full uni life as much as university students. I can still socialise, but not as frequently as others. The apprenticeship also helps me manage my time as I'm left to self-study more than I was during my A-levels, but I still have help from my line manager and the other people that work with me. So the end result is that I gain a foundation degree paid for by the company, and I can also progress to an honours degree if I want to, and be able to earn while I learn. All in all, my experience so far has been positive, and I would encourage anyone who's interested in apprenticeships to take this route, as the benefits are more than people realise. So thank you for listening.
Thank you, Emma. You sell us a good story. Can we go to the next slide, please? So looking at some of these strategic benefits, the very first one is basically what Emma just said. It's a competitive value proposition. You earn as you learn. What is there not to like? We are all living through a cost of living crisis, and university is becoming very, very expensive. I three about to go on that journey in not too many years away. So, you know, you think your child or these people like Emma are going to get their degree, foundation degree. The full degree is offered after that to anybody in Northern Ireland Water who wants it at no cost, leaving university with no debt. It's just, I think it just sells itself. I don't need to sell it at all. In terms of the next point there, it's adding value quicker. You're mixing, you're learning on the job. As Emma said, she's in college one day, she's coming back to the office. She can bounce off her line managers. If she's any difficulty, she's got that support both in work and then a college, and the two making it real, I suppose, that, you know, you're living your job, you're doing your job, it's not all theoretical. So she's adding value quicker to the business. She's telling you there that she's going to be on a project that could be, you know, really changing for Northern Ireland Water, and she's so young. It's phenomenal. It's great. I wasn't even aware of that, so that makes me even more happier. So it mitigates also the labour market constraints by growing your own. It's difficult to get cyber people, but we're growing them through Emma. We're growing them in telemetry. We're growing them in business analytics. We're growing them in science. So yes, it's not easy. Yes, it takes effort, but the results are there, and the apprentices and graduates and higher level apprentices are happy. So that's a big win for us all. We've got increased retention, 97%, which is very, very high for early careers. Some people, as I said earlier, about one maybe leaves out of the 30 because they find it wasn't the right job for them. And we have changed how we've recruited, so they know what they're signing up to when they come in at the start of the year. You can't mitigate all, but 97% is very, very high for early careers. It's also a benefit to Northern Ireland Water financially. They're cheaper. They're cheaper to bring on board. It's a lower cost base because of their entry level salaries. And also, it very importantly to us in Northern Ireland Water, it supports our diversity and inclusion ambitions. And all of this come back to the original story of what I said way back in 2013. It has having a very positive impact on succession planning. Talent with career aspirations are aligned to Northern Ireland Water's values and behaviours. Talent with bottom-up knowledge of our processes and procedures, where they're brought in and they're a good cultural fit to Northern Ireland Water, and we're keeping core skills and competencies that we might not have been able to do have been brought in through the normal recruitment route. So there's lots of strategic benefits for Northern Ireland Water. Next slide, please. So in terms of our results, over the last 4 years, we've grown and diversified the Academy, building a multifaceted entry-level strategy across early careers. From 5 apprentices in 2019 to 108 now, and that's made up of apprentices, which we started off with in the beginning. Now we have higher level apprentices and graduates across 9 different business areas. And our requests for next year, and that's hot off the press for 2024, all 6 directorates in Northern Ireland Water have requested entry-level resource for 2024. Whether or not they're approved, that's a different matter, but they're all interested. And that's taken time because, you know, some of these people were quite cynical at the beginning and wouldn't have embarked on the academy, wouldn't have come through. They would have been, oh no, we recruit the normal route through graduate programs and so on. So they were cynical. So it has to be tried and tested first. My advice would be start off small, grow, let people see what you're doing, make sure they're happy, and move on. And that incremental growth is what has brought over the cynics. And that's why all areas of the business are now asking for resource through this way. It absolutely helps build the capability in niche resources, which I've already commented on, and has helped bridge gaps for us. It's increased our female representation. We're not there yet. We would like to do better. I benchmarked with the other water companies in GB, and they're saying it's about 10%, and we are getting 10%, but we would like to do better. Because, you know, if you bring in 10 frontline apprentices and only one of them are female, that's going to be difficult for that female to enjoy their experience. So it's not just about getting the data, it's about them having a good experience with us. And all in all, that's helping to build a healthier staff mix. We've now got the age profile, we've got the cultural changes as well, and the diversity. So it's all very good. Next slide, please. So very importantly, our apprentices are happy. They're staying with us. You've heard from Emma, she's happy, and she represents, you know, the rest of them who have started with us as well. We're building a stronger employee brand. People want to work here. We got 1,000 applications for 30 jobs, which is absolutely phenomenal. We have a positive cultural impact. We're helping to make Northern Ireland Water a great place to work. There's a real buzz about the academy, and everybody wants to hear about it in the business. So people want to be part of it, which is great. But very importantly to us is driving the social impact, that change in the game through bold and decisive action. And the action that we have taken is we have dropped the GCSE requirement for frontline roles. It was ambitious of us, it was brave of us to do it this year. We had no idea how that was going to go. With 10 roles that we put out and we dropped the GCSEs, it means that they set a different assessment, a skills-based assessment, as part of the assessment centre. But it means for those people from the socially disadvantaged backgrounds who have left school without the English and Maths GCSE, they still have an opportunity to apply for these great jobs. And that has been externally recognised through the CIPD. There's a picture of us all in October 22, where we won the best apprenticeship programme at the CIPD Awards, which was really great for us. We're very, very proud of that. And then if you just click again, we got a second award for the best apprenticeship programme with the Irish News. So we're doing something right, I hope. Okay, if we go to the next slide. So the timelines. So what are the challenges? It's difficult to get it all done in a year. As I say, we start in August, gathering our requirements, and we recruit the following September. But you're recruiting and bringing on board the 2023 group while you're working on the 2024 group. There's so much to do. There's the business case development, there's the approval, there's the marketing campaign, there's the assessment centres, there's the onboarding, there's the boot camp. All challenges to ensure that we are not conflicting with the exam preparation. You have to time this all so that you're not interviewing in like April, 1 month before exams. So you need to be cognizant of what the students have themselves. Otherwise, you won't get the applications through. We still don't have it all right. I'll tell you that and be honest. We're learning every year, and we make tweaks every year. The assessment centre dropping the GCSEs were the tweaks that we made this year. And I've no doubt we'll make more tweaks next year. We have public sector funding constraints, which was talked about earlier today. It's a stretch on our budget. Our frontline apprentices are very, very expensive. Our higher level apprentices and graduates are less expensive. They do part-time courses, but you know, we don't get any funding, and it is a real challenge for us. And I don't know how that's going to affect us for 2024. We need to educate our hiring managers so that they are on board on what is required of them. Female representation, I've talked about it. We definitely have not been as successful as we wanted to be with that, but we will take more feedback. We're going out to schools. We'll do everything that we need to do to make that better for 2024. One of the things that is becoming obvious this year is the size of the academy. I said all 6 directorates have put in for jobs through this route. We are in danger of becoming the recruitment part of the business, and we're not supposed to be. So we need to be careful of that. Are these really, you know, entry-level roles, and can we cope with the numbers that are being asked for? So that process now of working with the business with the 2024 requirements, we need to be very firm and making sure this isn't just another route into the business. I can't stress enough about the pastoral care and the safeguarding. They are different. They are younger, they have different needs. We are coming across the challenges day in, day out. So you need to be really on top of your safeguarding. We're working with the Belfast Met and a few external consultants to get that up and running and making sure that these younger people have the requirements that they need. You need policies, you need the organisational structure, you need training at different levels for different groups, and that all needs to be on board. And there's more pastoral care with these young people coming into your business. Next slide, please. In terms of enablers of for success, benchmarking has really helped us. You know, people have been doing this much longer than us. NIE, I think, are doing it 30 years. We speak to them, we learn from them, we talk to them. We've spoken a lot to Scottish Water this year. They're doing that because this is the first time we were bringing in scientists. So we went and spoke to them. What's your journey? What did you do? What did you learn? So that we can pick up and run that wee bit quicker with the help of them. And we're very, very appreciative of the support that we do get. As I said before, it has to be a cross-functional partnership approach. You cannot do it with the coordination team, with the entry-level team on your own. Start with a proof of concept. Start small, get it right, make the tweaks, and then showcase your success, and the rest will just happen for you. Educate the business. You know, do these types of things, do these presentations, let them know what we're doing. We meet with them all a couple of times a year to talk through what we do, and then that helps them understand if this is the way that they need to go forward. Really think about your target recruitment. Recruitment and marketing is very expensive. You need to get it right, and you need to be marketing in the right place. We've increased our use of social media ×2 over the last 3 years. We're now using TikTok, we're using influencers, we're using all different social media opportunities out there, and making sure that we're getting to the right audience. We have a massive outreach program as well. We visit all the schools from October onwards, as many as we can do. Some of them come directly to us. We send out flyers to say that we're coming, do you want us to come? And we go if we are invited. And we talk to the young students and tell them, you know, what the expectations are at assessment centres and so on, because some of them come prepared and some of them don't. And it's a terrible opportunity to miss if they're not prepared. So we do work with the schools and the careers and teachers. We're trying to go to all types of schools, all girls schools, all male schools, grammar schools, secondary schools. We want to influence across all groups. We're investing in dedicated resources, which is essential, as I said, myself and the 2 coordinators, and that may grow if the academy grows any further. And we're trying to grow our own mindset, constantly learning, constantly adapting, constantly benchmarking, and constantly improving. There is no way we are there and the best that we can be. We need to keep moving year on year if we're going to stay award winning. So I think that's the last slide, isn't it? Yeah. I hope I haven't missed anything out, but there's opportunities for questions following this. Thank you.
Folks, it's just over to me now to marshal some questions here for our panel. We've got just a few minutes left, but please, if there's any questions that you'd like, please put them into the Q&A part of your screen, really. So there's one coming in. Just check that. Just for Michael, how do companies go about attracting females to apprenticeship programs? And do you have any ideas? What ideas do you hear from other companies about doing that? Obviously, we've heard a bit about that from Geraldine in the Northern Ireland Water experience, but Michael, looking more broadly into Northern Ireland, do you have any insight on this?
There's different things. It's certainly, I'm not sure specific employers and what they're doing. I know Transport Training Services, who deliver some of our programs on the Apprenticeship NI side, they developed a Women in Wheels initiative there. If you go on their website, you'll see that a lot of social media and videos are around. Again, those were interviews with actual female apprentices and their experiences, just like Emma there. And so I think for a lot of companies, and of course it's not just apprenticeships where females are represented in a lot of these sectors. I suppose the female uptake is probably representative of wider employment practices, but that's a good example of a sector which really has female underrepresentation, and they're trying their best to do something about that. From our perspective within the department, we're looking at our promotional material that we use, that we try and make sure that we have females represented in that, in some of the non-typical roles as well. So we would be responsible for promoting Apprenticeship Week, which happens in February. And as part of that, there are a range of regional groups set up around Northern Ireland who be employers, local authorities, whoever would be involved at events that they can do to promote their apprenticeships. And some of those would be specifically about promoting females themselves. But I think, yes, it's actually, I think having that voice of the apprentice there that you can showcase, that particularly those that have done it. I mean, any of these sort of presentations that have been involved in, hearing from the actual apprentice and hearing from the actual employer, I think, who have done it and been there is key.
Thanks, Michael. And just talking about that same point, we've got a question from Sarah, which asks about what's the process to set up a company-specific apprenticeship program if you don't have one in place. I think you mentioned some aspects of this in your presentation about the various websites and so on, but you might just bring some detail out on that for us.
Yeah, if it's the Apprenticeships NI program, then there are already say there's 130 different apprenticeships there. We wouldn't at level 2, level 3 set up an apprenticeship specifically for one company. They would tend to be very much that frameworks that are developed that will benefit a range of companies. Some, given the nature of Northern Ireland, some may be just specific to one company because they're the only ones that are operating here, and I think there's one that Openreach probably use more than others. We would get in that case anyway, this is where the sectoral partnerships are important, and why we need employers on those sectoral partnerships, because they will work with employers to help develop if there's a need for an apprenticeship. And I say certainly if it's one, preferably if it's one that would benefit more than just one company, then the sectoral partnership will help with the development of that apprenticeship. On the HLA side, it's slightly different. It's about an employer working with one of the colleges or one of the universities and bringing that proposal to the department for funding to propose that way. But yeah, I think if you have specific queries on that, we do have probably the best way in is we have an email address, apprenticeships at economy.ni.gov.uk, and we can pick up on any of those specific individual queries that you might have, and we can help talk through those.
Michael, thanks. You might even just stick in the chat that email address. That would be fantastic.
Yeah.
If you could, that would be fantastic. So just conscious of time, folks. We've got a few minutes left, and thank you for those questions. Geraldine and Emma got off lightly there. It didn't, none came your direction, but I think just before we finish, I think I'll pass back to Nicola as our chair, and you might just pick up some of the final points about upcoming events.
Thank you to all our speakers. I absolutely loved listening to you all. And Emma, you have got a fantastic, exciting career ahead of you. It was great to hear how your real passion coming through about your role. So really good luck with your future career and your apprenticeship. Also fantastic to hear hot off the press from Michael around all age apprenticeships, which are now in operation. So I'm sure we'll all be reading up on that to see if we can utilise those in our own workplaces. And Geraldine, you have such a fantastic story to tell about NI Water and all the great work that's been going on there and the challenges that you've overcame. And I'm sure there's lots of members here on the call got a lot from hearing from your experience, warts and all. I know that I have taken pages and pages of notes today. So thanks to all of the speakers. So thank you everyone for coming along, all our members. just to run you through some of our next upcoming branch events. On the 19th of September, we've got a coffee and catch-up session, which is being hosted by Think People. So this is a new initiative that we're kicking off this year. Very informal. Come along. It's about networking. So it'd be great to see you. We are putting on the coffee and the cake. That's on us. So hopefully we'll see some of you there. The 11th of October, then, we're having an in-person mediation event, and that's going to be in person in the MSc offices. On the 12th of October, then, we've got the CIPD Awards Gala on the Titanic Hotel, so I'm sure we'll see you in your fancy frocks and suits at that event. Please do pop by and say hello to us. 16th of October, then, we've got a hybrid working event that's going to be online, and that's a discussion really around, is hybrid working here to stay, or is it really past its use by date? And we have an author of a hybrid working book is going to be joining us in that call. It's going to be interesting. Plus, there's lots and lots of other events throughout the year, so please keep your eye to Eventbrite and register there quickly, because the places do snap up really, really fast. All our events are free for branch events, and they are organised by all of the team, volunteer team on the branches as well. So that's all from us. Thank you all very much for joining us today, and we hope to see you at a future event soon. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.